Hello, good morning. So quarter 2 of module 1 is all about illustrating situations involving variations and translating relationship between two quantities into variation statement. So this module aims to provide various activities that will help you learn about the different types of variation. At the end of this module, you are expected to first define and identify the different types of variation. Pangalawa, determine a direct variation and inverse variation through table and graph. Pangatlo, recognize the pattern in the equation of the variation. Pang-apat, illustrates the situation that involves direct, inverse, joint, and combined variation. So, yun yung apat na types of variation. And lastly, translate relationship between two quantities into variation statement. What's new? So, face mask and PPEs have become central to the COVID-19 conversation as the disease tightens its grip on the world. They are regarded as essential items in hospitals where the equipment could prove the difference between life and death for doctors, nurses, and patients. In early March 2020, the World Health Organization called on industry and governments to increase the manufacturing of face masks by 40%. So the increase in the demand of face masks leads to a rise in price. The quantity being demanded and supplied should also increase. The price of face masks is predicted to continue increasing, while supply may not be sufficient to support the demand. So kung makikita ninyo sa graph, nung wala pang coronavirus, so ang price at quantity ay mababa pa lamang. Subalit nang dumating ang coronavirus, ano nangyari? So, kailangan dumami ang supply dahil marami ang pangailangan. Kasabay nito, tumaas din yung presyo. This is one situation where questions such as, will an increase in production of face masks contribute to the increase in the number of persons being employed? So, yun daw bang pagdami ng production ng face mask ay makakatulong din daw ba ito sa pagdami ng bilang ng mga manggagawa na magkakaroon ng trabaho? Or, will an increase in the demand of face mask lead to an increase in its price? So, yun daw bang pagtaas ng pangailangan ng face mask ay magdudulot ng pagtaas ng presyo nito? So these questions can be answered using the concepts of variation. So there are several relationships of quantities that you will encounter in this situation. You will learn how a change in one quantity could correspond to a predictable change in the other. So relationship to ng mga quantities or two quantities kapag sinabi nating variation. So let us continue. What is it? So let us discuss the different types of variation. Let us define the 4 types of variation. So let's start with the first one. So as written in your module, example 1 is income versus work. So skeletal work pertains to a work arrangement where a minimum number of employees are required to be physically present at the office to render service when full operation is not possible. So, naganap itong skeletal workforce nung lumabas si COVID-19. So, ano ba yung skeletal workforce? So, work arrangement siya na there are several or minimum number of employees lang ang pwedeng pumasok sa office kasi nga i-consider natin yung social distancing. So, sabi dyan, due to extended enhanced community quarantine, the skeletal workforce was implemented in different companies and the usual number of working days were shortened. So, unfortunately, yun daw mga sahod ng manggagawa ay nakabase sa bilang ng araw ng kanilang pagpasok. So, yung income ng worker earning per day varies directly as the number of the days he worked. So, ibig sabihin yung sahod niya nakadepende kung ilang araw siya pumasok. So, kung halimbawa isang araw lang siya pumasok at kada araw at 300 pesos lang yung sahod niya. So, 300 pesos lang yung makukuha niya. Pero kapag nadagdagan yung araw ng pagpasok niya, madadagdagan din yung kanyang sahod. So, kung makikita nyo, may table dito. It shows the relationship between the number of days of work to the income of the workers. So, kung halimbawa, isang araw, ang sahod niya ay 400. Kapag dalawang araw, 800 na. Kapag tatlong araw, 1,200. Pag apat, 1,600. So, alam natin na kapag 5 araw, madadagdagan lang yun ng 400 pesos. So, yun ay magiging 2,000 pesos. So, if you're going to simplify 2 over 800, 3 over 1,200, 4 over 1,600, that is equivalent to 1 over 400. So, ibig sabihin nun, yung ratio ng any specific fare of corresponding number of days to the income is constant. So, alam natin na nadadagdagan lang siya lang 400 pesos kada araw na pumapasok si worker. Ratios of successive pairs of values may be equated to form a proportion. Thus, two variables in direct variation are sometimes said to be direct proportion or to vary proportionally. So, second example, despite the hardships and health risk, millions of essential frontline workers continue to do their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic. These hardworking heroes are those picking up trash, providing life-saving medicine, delivering groceries and packages, preparing foods, cleaning hospitals, caring for those who are most vulnerable, and keeping us safe open while earning low wages and few benefits. So, let's help frontliners even in our simple ways. We can share our donations to provide some of their needs such as face masks and PPEs. So the COVID Fighters team leads to donate face masks and PPEs to all employees in Bulacan Medical Center. So each employee daw will receive 50 pieces of face mask worth 150 pesos and 2 pieces of PPEs worth 500 pesos. So bawat employee daw ay makaka-receive ng 50 pieces ng face mask na ang halaga ay 150 piso at makaka-receive din sila ng PPE, 2 piraso na ang halaga ay 500 pesos. So, ibig sabihin, yung amount ng money na kailangan i-donate ng team ay depende or sa bilang ng employees na makaka-receive ng items. So, ibig sabihin, bawat employee makaka-receive ng 150 plus 500, so that is 650 worth of face mask and PPEs. So, if the number of employees who receive the items is plotted on the x-axis against the amount of money donated, which is on the y-axis, the resulting graph is a straight line showing direct variation. So, ito yung una, direct variation. So, kung makikita ninyo, nung nilagay sa Cartesian coordinate plane, so yung number of employees, yun yung ating x-axis, yung duration in pesos, yun yung ating y-axis. So, kapag isa lang ang marireceive, ang kailangan na pera ng team na ma-produce ay 650 pesos. Pero pag dalawa na, syempre, dalawang 650, so dapat magbigay sila ng 1,300. Kapag naman tatlo, dapat makapagbigay sila ng 1,950 at kapag apat, dapat makapagbigay sila ng 2,600. So, kung makikita nyo, habang dumadami yung bilang ng employees, ano nangyayari din sa donation in pesos? Tumataas. So, yan ay halimbawa ng direct variation. At kung ito ay nakagraph, ang graph ng direct variation ay straight line. Straight line passing through the origin of the coordinate plane. Pag sinabi nating origin, yun yung intersection of the x-axis and the y-axis, na ang ordered pair ay 0, 0. Ito yun. 0, 0 yan. So, let us define what is direct variation. Sabi dito, if the ratio between two quantities is constant, it means that one quantity varies directly as the other quantity or the two quantities are in direct variation. So, ibig sabihin kapag may dalawang quantities daw, at ang ratio nila ay constant. Pag sinabi natin constant, ito yung hindi nagbabago. between the two quantities or the two variables. So, kapag daw ganon, ang ibig sabihin daw nun, they vary directly. Quantity varies directly or indirect variation. So, para mas madali niyo matandaan, paano ba natin malalaman kung direct variation siya? The statements y varies directly as x, or y is directly proportional to x, or y is proportional to x. So, yun yung mga words na mababasa natin para masabi natin that the statement is indirect variation. Varies directly, directly proportional, and proportional. So, kung gagawin natin siyang mathematical sentence, kung ano yung unang variable na binanggit, so, di ba sabi dyan, y varies directly as x. So, kung ano yung unang variable na binanggit, ilalagay natin siya sa left side of the equation. So, ito yon. So, y. And then, equals, yung second variable na binanggit, which is x, ay ilalagay naman natin sa right side of the equation together with k. So, ano po ba yung k natin? Yun yung constant of variation or yung hindi nagbabago between the two quantities. So, first variable nasa left side is equal to the second variable on the right side, which is kasama ng k or katabi ng k. So, paano naman natin hahanapin yung equation for k? So, kung mapapansin natin, ito yung equation natin, original direct variation equation. So, para mahanap naman natin yung equation for k, kung ano yung kasama ni k, ilalagay natin sa ibaba ng variable which is on the left side of the equation. So, k, tapos over x, yung y ilalagay natin sa numerator. So, our equation for k is equal to y over x. So, for two quantities x and y, an increase in x causes an increase in y as well. So, kapag nagko-compare tayo ng dalawang quantities, ano nangyayari? Kapag daw tumaas si x, ano mangyayari kay y? Tataas din si y. Similarly, a decrease in x causes a decrease in y. So, kung bumaba naman si x, ano mangyayari kay y? Bababa din. So, sabay nangyayari sa kanila. Kapag tumaas si x, tataas din si y. Kapag bumaba si x, bababa din si y. So, yun yung tinatawag nating direct variation. So, I have here examples of situations and you're going to tell me if it shows direct variation. So, the first one, fare and distance of destination. So, pamasahe at saka layo ng iyong pupuntahan. Kapag ba ikaw ay nakatira sa Santa Maria at pupunta ka sa Pulong Buhangin, magkano ang pamasahe? 10 piso. So, paano pag pumunta ka ng Garay, magkano na pamasahe? 10 pesos pa rin ba? So, ito bang example number 1 ay nagpapakita ng direct variation? Yes. Bakit? Kasi ano nangyayari sa pamasahe pag lumalayo ang iyong pupuntahan? So, tumataas din. So, pag tumaas yung distance of destination, ano nangyayari sa fare? Tumataas din. So, this one is an example of direct variation. Pangalawa, slices of pizza to the number of persons sharing a whole pizza. So, karaniwan ang pizza ay 8 slices. So, kung sa pamilya ay 4 lang ang members, ilang pieces ang makakain ng bawat members? Diba, 2 peraso. Pero kapag yung 8 slices of pizza ay 8 members of the family naman yung present, magiging tigi-tigisang slice na lang sila ng pizza. So, ito ba ay nagpapakita ng direct variation? So, this one is not a direct variation. Bakit? Kapag dumami yung maghahati-hati or yung taong maghahati-hati dun sa pizza, lumiliit yung parte ng pizza na kakainin nila. So, tumaas yung bilang ng taong kakain. Ano nangyayari sa slices of pizza? Lumiliit, kaya hindi siya direct variation. Hindi sila sabay na tumaas. So, yung isa tumaas, yung isa ay bumaba. Pangatlo, employee's salary to the number of days he has worked. So, katulad nung halimbawa natin kanina. So, magkano ang kikitain ng isang manggagawa? kung isa or dalawa or tatlo or apat na araw lamang siya pumasok. So, halimbawa ba to ng direct variation? Yes, this is an example of a direct variation. So, can you give me other examples of situation that shows direct variation? Nakakapagbigay pa ba kayo? So, ngayon, we are going to translate statements into an equation in a direct variation situation. So, how are you going to translate this one as an equation? The cost C of fish varies directly as its weight W in kilograms. So, naka-highlight na yung dalawang variables na kino-compare. Yung halaga ng isda, which is C. Sabi dyan, it varies directly as the weight W in kilograms. So, syempre, habang tumataas yung kilo ng isda na bibilin mo, tumataas din yung ibabayad mo dun sa kilo ng isda na binili mo. So, paano natin siya gagawing mathematical sentence? So, yung first variable na binanggit, letter C, yung second variable, W. So, gagawin natin siyang C is equal to K, W. So, K is the constant of variation, or para mahanap natin yung equation for K, kung ano yung kasama ng K, lalagay natin sa ibaba, and the numerator is the variable on the left side of the equation. So, kung ano yung letter sa or variable sa left side ng equation, magiging numerator siya, at yung variable na kasama ni K ay magiging denominator. Kaya magiging K is equal to C over W. Very good. Pangalawa, the distance D traveled by a car is directly proportional to its speed. So, yung distance daw ng sasakyan na babiyahe ng isang sasakyan ay directly proportional to its speed S. So, kung mabilis or mabagal yung pagtakbo ng sasakyan, nakadepende doon yung layo na matatakbo ng isang sasakyan. So, ang variables natin dito ay D, which is the distance, and S, which is the speed. So, how are we going to write it as an equation? So, first variable on the left side, second variable on the right side, together with K. So, ang magiging equation natin is D is equal to KS. So, yung unang variable nasa left side, yung pangalawang variable nasa right side kasama ng K. So, paano naman natin hahanapin yung equation for K? So, kung ano yung kasama ni K, ilalagay natin sa denominator. So, yung S ay nasa ibaba at yung variable on the left side, ilalagay natin sa numerator. So, our equation is K is equal to D over S. Very good. Pangatlo. So, we have example number 3. So, sabi dyan, during the ECQ period, Honorable Tessie Vistan, Mayor of Plaridel, Bulacan, launched her project Warantanim sa Bahay. She gave a pack of pechay seeds in every house so that the Plarideleño can plant in their backyard while at home. So, may project si Mayor. Anong project niya? Warantanim sa Bahay. Nagbigay siya ng pack of pechay seeds sa bawat bahay sa Plaridel, para daw maitanim nila sa backyard habang sila ay nasa bahay kasi nga naka-quarantine. So, try to analyze the table below. The table shows the relationship between the number of pechay planted in a row and the distance of pechay in meters. What do you notice? So, ito yung number of plants in a row. So, which is 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Distance in meter. So, kapag 6, ang distance nila ay half of a meter. Kapag siyam na yung plants sa isang row, ang distance nila is 1/3 of a meter. Kapag 12 na, 1/4 of a meter. Kapag 15, 1/5 of a meter. Kapag 18, 1/6 of a meter. So, ano nangyari sa number of plants in a row? Diba dumami? From 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Ano nangyari sa distance in meter? 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, 1/6. Ano nangyari sa distance? Lumiit. So, this shows that as the number of plants increases, there is a decrease in the distance between them. So, kapag dumadami yung halaman sa isang row, ano nangyayari din sa distance nila? Lumiliit. So, ibig sabihin, nagiging mas malapit yung mga halaman sa isa't isa. So, take note that if one variable increases while the other one decreases, then it is called now an inverse variation. Kaya nga inverse, yung isa tataas, yung isa bumababa. Magkaiba yung nanggaganap dun sa dalawang quantities. Hindi katulad kanina sa direct, kapag direct sabay tumataas, sabay ding bababa. O kaya sabay ding bababa. Pero kapag inverse, yung isa tataas, yung pangalawa ay bababa. So, kapag naman ginraph natin yung given dun sa table, ito po yung lalabas na graph. So, yung baba, yun yung distance in meter. Yung nasa y-axis naman ay number of plants in a row. So, if you're going to graph that, it will look like this. So, the graph is neither a straight line nor a parabola. So, hindi siya straight line, hindi siya parabola, but a half of a two-part curve known as the hyperbola. So, ito ay parang parabola na nakaharap sa kanan. Pero kalahati lang yan. So, ang tawag natin doon ay hyperbola. So, hyperbola is the graph of an inverse variation. So, pang-apat na halimbawa, build a bridge. So, eto kilala nyo itong bridge na to, pinag-aaralan nyo to sa AP. The San Juanico Bridge connecting the provinces of Samar and Leyte is one of the monumental projects under former President Ferdinand Marcos administration. It is known to be the longest bridge in the Philippines. So, ito yung pinakamahabang tulay na matatagpuan sa Pilipinas na pinagkokonekta ang probinsya ng Samar at Leyte. So, in August 1969, the San Juanico Bridge construction began and was completed in December 1972. So, kung makikita nyo po, ilang taon ginawa yung San Juanico Bridge. So, 1969, 70, 71, 72. So, 3 taon, mahigit. The length of time of construction depends on the number of workers who build the bridge. Sa tingin nyo, kung isa lang yung gumawa ng bridge, matatapos niya ba yon in 3 years time? So, hindi, di ba? So, the number of years required to build a bridge varies inversely to the number of workers. So, nakadepende kung gaano katagal matatapos ang construction ng isang bridge sa bilang ng manggagawa. So, habang marami yung gumagawa, mas bumibilis yung araw ng paggawa. Pero kapag nabawasan yung workers, ano nangyayari sa number of years na gagawin? Or number of days gagawin yung isang bridge. So, mas tumatagal. So, as the number of workers increases, the number of years required to build it would decrease. So, baliktad yung nangyayari. Kapag dumami yung workers, umiigsi yung oras ng paggawa. Pero kapag maunti si workers, humahaba yung oras ng paggawa or araw or taon ng paggawa ng isang bridge. Since one variable increase as the other variable decreases, then it shows an inverse variation. So, sabi ko nga kanina, kapag nag-increase yung isang variable at nangyari dun sa pangalawa ay bumaba, it is an example now of an inverse variation. So, ano po ba yung inverse variation? Whenever the product of corresponding values of two quantities is a constant, then one quantity varies inversely as the other. This means that y is inversely proportional to x or x is inversely proportional to y. So, kapag isisulat natin siya in symbols, that is y is equal to k over x po. Para mahanap natin yung equation for k, k is equal to x times y. Or minsan, yung equation ay nakasulat din as y is equal to k multiplied by 1 over x. Or yung reciprocal nung second variable. So, anong statement naman yung mababasa natin para masabi natin that the statement is an inverse variation? Pwedeng y varies inversely as x or y is inversely proportional to x. So, pwede natin siyang gawin nga. Katulad kanina, yung equation niyan, kung anong yung unang variable na binanggit, so y yung nasa left side ng equation. Yung pangalawang variable na binanggit, nasa right side of the equation, pero nasa ilalim or nasa denominator ng k. So, ang equation natin ay y is equal to k over x. na yung k pa rin, yun pa rin yung tinatawag nating constant of variation, or sometimes it is called constant of proportionality, or k is equal to x multiplied by y. So, paano natin hahanapin yung equation for k? Imumultiply lang natin yung variable sa denominator at saka yung nasa left side of our equation. So, k is equal to x times y, or k is equal to xy. So, I have here also examples of situation, and you're going to tell me whether it shows an inverse variation. So, example number 1, the number of persons needed to do a job and the number of days to finish the job. Kamukha siya nung paggawa ng bridge o kaya paggawa ng bahay. Kapag isa lang yung gagawa ng bahay mo, matatapos niya ba agad? Pero kapag naging 10, naging 20, ano nangyayari sa number of days para matapos nila yung bahay mo? So, example ba to ng direct variation, ng inverse variation, sorry. So, inverse variation ba to? Yes, this one is an example of an inverse variation. Pangalawa, so ito yung kanina, slices of pizza to the number of persons sharing a whole pizza. So, kapag 4 lang yung mag-share sa 8 slices of pizza, ano mangyayari? Ilan ng yung hati nila? So, tigda 2 sila. Pero kapag 8 members of the family sharing 8 slices of pizza, tigi-tigisang slice na lang sila. So, ano nangyari? So, habang dumadami yung naghahati-hati, ano nangyayari sa slices of pizza? Lumiliit yung kanilang share. So, this one is also an example of an inverse variation. So, pangatlo, the area of the wall to the amount of paint used to cover it. So, halimbawa, magpe-paint ka ng wall. So, kapag ba halimbawa yung kalahati lang ng bahay mo yung pipinturahan mo, gaano kadaming paint yung kailangan mong gamitin? O kaya kapag buong bahay, labas at loob ang pipinturahan mo, gaano kadaming pintura yung gagamitin mo? So, example ba to ng direct variation? Diba habang lumalaki yung area ng wall na pipinturahan mo, ano nangyayari sa paint na gagamitin mo? Dumadami din yung paint na gagamitin mo. So, example ba siya ng inverse variation? So, hindi, hindi po. Kasi tataas yung area, ano mangyayari sa amount of paint? Dadami din. So, therefore, this one is not an inverse variation, but this one is an example of direct variation. So, makakapagbigay pa ba kayo ng mga halimbawa ng mga situation na nagpapakita ng inverse variation? So, let us proceed with translating statements into an equation in an inverse variation. So, the first example, the costs C per person of renting a private resort varies inversely as the number of n of persons sharing the rent. So, again, highlighted na po yung two variables, which is C, which is the cost per person of renting a private resort, and N, which is the number of persons sharing the rent. So, sabi nga, yung unang variable na binanggit, nasa left side ng equation, yung pangalawang variable, nasa right side, pero nasa ilalim ng k, or nasa denominator ng k. So, magiging equation natin is C is equal to k over n, or para naman mahanap natin yung equation for k, so k is equal to the product of c and n. So, imumultiply mo lang or pagtatabihin mo lang yung dalawang letters, which is c and n. Again, first variable on the left side, second variable on the denominator of k. So, c is equal to k over n. Para mahanap yung equation for k, multiply nyo lang yung dalawang variables. K is equal to cn. Pangalawang example. The length L of a rectangular field varies inversely as its width W. So, the first variable is L, which is the length of the rectangular field, and W as the width of the rectangular field varies inversely. So, magiging equation natin, first variable on the left side, L, and second variable W is on the right side, which is below or under K. So, L is equal to K over W. So, para mahanap natin yung equation for K, so K is equal to the product of L and W. So, K is equal to LW. Okay po?